Welcome, everyone. We are currently live from my parents' guest bedroom where I am currently physical distancing. And tonight we're going to talk about sustainable travel. A bunch of you sent in some questions beforehand, so we're going to get to those first. And then if you have any other questions while we're on this live, then go ahead and drop them in the comments below. In case you don't already know, I'm Kendal. I am the sustainable and zero waste travel blogger behind Getaway Girl. I help travelers and travel industry professionals wander without waste. And we're going to go live with Shelby from Authenteco Travel. She plans responsible adventures for sustainable, curious travelers. She runs a sustainable custom tour agency. So I'm really excited to have her here with me tonight on this live to help answer some of these questions and give y'all a different perspective on her sustainability journey compared to mine. Because as a reminder, there's no one right way for a sustainable journey. So let's go ahead and invite her onto this call.
Hi! Yay! It worked!
Yay!
Hi!
That was a lot smoother than I thought it was going to be.
I know, we did it. That's awesome.
Shelby's there with her dogs, which are really, really cute.
Maddie, say hi. She heard you and she started barking. Maddie! Yeah, she's too busy. She's like, where's Kendal? I'll find her.
So Shelby and I met at TravelCon in 2019, and we clicked over our shared interest of sustainability journeys and sustainable travel, which kind of leads into one of our first questions, which is, why did you become sustainable? Why did you start your sustainability journey? Which I actually don't know your story,
Oh
I think,
gosh.
Shelby.
Well, it's a long story, but no, it's a good one. So before I started Authenteco Travel, I was a helicopter pilot in the Navy, and we were stationed in Japan. And I think the thing that got me thinking about the environment not only was our travels and the different pieces of dark tourism that we saw in Southeast Asia along our travels, just kind of like the pieces of, I remember the first time we went to Vietnam, we actually booked a tour in Halong Bay because a friend had recommended it. And you see on the internet these beautiful pictures of this UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
You're so excited to go see it. And that was probably one of the worst travel experiences I've ever had.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
I've heard amazing things. I've never been there myself.
Well,
but...
yeah, I guess you and I haven't talked about this. Yeah, it was recommended to us, and I completely regret going just because they've turned it into such a tourism moneymaker that there's trash floating everywhere in the water. There's too many cruise boats. There's oil that's like decimating the environment there. And unfortunately, protecting it as a UNESCO World Heritage Site a lot of times does more damage than good for different destinations around the world. So that's an example of something
I guess because it becomes so popular, everyone was
yeah, there's a lot of mass tourism and over tourism. So that was my first experience of kind of dark tourism, and then being a helicopter pilot, flying around from an aircraft carrier over the ocean, thousands of miles away from shore. I would see floating refrigerators. I would see dolphins eating. Yeah, I would see dolphins eating floating trash. Like, you'd actually see the dolphins. I mean, we could get low enough to see them eating trash. You would see piles of, like 500-foot just like trash garbage that has like collected because of the currents. And we would be like, no joke, Kendal, we would be like thousands of miles away from land.
And there's just all this trash in the ocean. That's crazy. I've never known that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, there was all this trash in the ocean, and I got to literally, like, you see the garbage dispatch and there's like a a garbage pile the size of Texas in the Pacific.
Yeah, yes, the Great Garbage Patch. Yeah.
Right, the Great Garbage Patch. But I've actually witnessed it with my own eyes. And so seeing that was just kind of like, wow, what are we doing to the earth? And how can I have something that contributes in a positive way to stop what we're doing?
Wow.
So yeah, that's my story.
I'm glad. I didn't know that. That's awesome to hear. I mean, it's sad, the circumstances, but that's really inspiring. For me personally, two things sort of happened simultaneously. I was about to go celebrate my 21st birthday with my friends in Hawaii,
Nice.
and we used to live in Hawaii as a family when I was very little. I was like 6 or 7. So, um, my dad was telling me all about these great adventures, going scuba diving and stuff. And I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to go scuba diving on my birthday. So I got my certification to go to Hawaii to go scuba diving and to have all these great adventures that my dad had had a decade earlier.
Yeah.
And when my friend and I went out into the ocean to go scuba diving, it was just bleached coral everywhere. And it was
Yeah.
not at all the experience that I thought I would have or that my dad had had a decade earlier. So that was obviously really disappointing. And so I started just doing some more personal research into that. But then I was also a couple months later diagnosed with PCOS. I don't know if you know what that is.
No,
But
no, I don't.
it's polycystic ovarian syndrome,
Okay.
which can be painful, sounds painful. It's thankfully not painful for me. Um, but I did a lot of research and I realized that a lot of scientists suspect that it's from all of the toxins that are in our daily life, from cosmetics, from plastic that we're touching, because hormones are so sensitive, it can
Yeah.
affect that. So
Wow.
those two things happening together, I was like, wow, this is affecting my own personal health, potentially. I guess it's not quite proven yet, but there's a huge suspicion that it is. And then also we're impacting the planet, like we can stop that. So that's kind of what propelled my mission forward. And that was 2 years ago now. So I'm sort of a newbie, I guess, still, but it's going well.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
yeah, so I guess in that vein, everybody's sustainability journey starts for a different reason, which I think is
Hmm.
really exciting. We all have different motivations. For the second question that I received was, what is the difference between sustainable travel and responsible travel? So I'll let you take this one because you
Oh
definitely
gosh.
talk more about responsibility in travel, and I talk more about sustainable travel. So yeah, why don't you share your thoughts
So,
there?
yeah, I think they really work hand in hand, but
Mhm.
responsible travel is kind of a different spectrum that relates to dark tourism, which is what I briefly mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know is that on Instagram or on, oh, sorry, I know you guys. I'm so excited to be outside all day. It's beautiful. On Instagram or on different websites where
Mhm.
you're like, hey, I want to book a trip, and you look up, maybe you want to book a trip to Thailand or something like that, and you're researching it, and you see all the pictures of people on elephants.
Yeah.
Um, that's actually not good.
Yeah.
And most people know it's not good, but I can tell you a lot of people don't know that it's not good. And that's part of an industry that we call dark tourism. And dark tourism are things, whether it has to do with animal neglect or animal abuse. It can have a little bit to do with the environment and sustainability as well, or it might have to do with even things like wildlife trafficking or sex
Yeah.
trafficking. There's lots of, I guess, there's lots of sides to dark tourism. And you want to make sure that whatever you're doing when you're traveling, so if you're going to Thailand, for example, and you see that there's an elephant sanctuary or something that you want to go be a part of, you really want to do your research because even
Mhm.
those elephant sanctuaries are usually tied in with dark tourism.
Yes, I've heard that
Um,
too.
yeah, and a lot of them unfortunately aren't real. And so the difference between responsible travel and sustainable travel is responsible travel usually is something that positively contributes to that local population or society,
Mhm.
their economy, and the well being of their people and the environment there. And
Yeah.
then sustainable travel goes more into the environmental side effects of your travel on that destination, which
Mhm.
you really specialize in. And we teach people at Authenteco Travel, we teach people about that as well. But we also teach them about dark tourism and kind of how to figure out which companies are legitimate and which
Yeah.
companies aren't legitimate.
Yeah. Which I've never been through any type of elephant tourism, but I learned that the elephant's backs are actually like their spines are not strong enough to carry the weight of humans, which is why
Yeah.
it's so dangerous. And to
Yeah.
train an elephant to accept a person being on their back to be ridden, they have to do terrible, horrible things to it. So yeah, that's very, very important and definitely a huge part of what travelers should do to be better travelers and give back more to the communities and the economy and the people there, which is
Yeah.
ultimately why we travel, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
No,
great. Yeah.
that's a great point. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I guess general summary, responsible travel takes more into consideration the full picture of better travel. So the economy, animals, locals, whereas sustainable travel can kind of incorporate those things, but it focuses more on the environmental side
Hmm.
of the economy and the community. Great.
You say
Uh,
it better than I do.
well, you just said it all, and then I summarized. So the third question we have is, how should we approach our travels more sustainably after this dies down? So do you have any initial thoughts on that? I have an initial thought.
Yeah, I mean, lead it.
All
Take it
right.
away, girl.
So I thought about this a lot when someone sent this question in, and I honestly think the best thing to do is just to ask questions. Ask your
Hmm.
like who, ask your why, ask your what. So really requesting and demanding transparency as consumers within the travel industry to know, okay, you're saying you're doing all these things for the environment or for the animals, but like who says that this is the right thing to do this? Is there an accreditation or a certificate or something that the organization has earned? And also for your own personal decisions, sort of like, what can I do or how can I do this better? So if you're finding yourself constantly buying plastic water bottles while you're traveling in a country that doesn't have clean and safe access to water, kind of asking yourself, what are some things that I can do to help save me money, but
Hmm.
also help reduce plastic waste in that country? So those are the two things that I think is just asking questions. I don't know. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah. No, that's, I would say in terms of, I mean, the question was like, how do we verify sustainability, especially after the coronavirus
It's
pandemic?
more so just how should we approach our travels? Like, um, I took it as what can we change in the way that we travel, but maybe it could also be like, should we be traveling as far or should we be traveling closer?
Yeah. So there's, so first off, something that is as horrible as coronavirus has been for humanity, there's always a silver lining to every
Mm,
disaster, right? There's always something that positive that comes out of, whether it's war or a pandemic, which is what we're experiencing now, or something negative going on in your life. There's always a silver lining.
hmm.
And my dogs are trying to make a guest appearance. And with coronavirus, I think that silver lining is the breath of fresh air that our Earth has gotten from it.
Yeah.
So I really think that if you look at the science and the graphs and like the reduction in CO2 emissions, and just there's data and there's evidence that just the break from air travel that we've had the past 2 months has made significant positive changes.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really
and
refreshing to see that because it's sort of a
yeah,
reminder that the earth is regenerative and we can let the
yeah,
planet become better if we give it that space and that possibility.
yeah, it's like it's living evidence, right? It's living
Hmm.
evidence that everything that climate change scientists and people are saying about reversing it is true. We just have to act now. And so, like you
Hmm.
said, what are the things we can do when we travel, right? Because I think sending the message of, well, don't travel, just stay inside your house, don't use a car, only bike, and only eat vegetables that you grow in your own garden.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
that's a little aggressive, though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a little aggressive. And so I think something that you do really well with Getaway Girl is teaching people how to start small.
Oh,
And
thank you.
the same applies to travel.
Yeah.
So if you're traveling, one thing I love to do is I take a straw with me and I take a pair of chopsticks
Hmm.
because chopsticks are easier to travel with than a fork and a knife.
Yeah.
You can't get in trouble because you don't have a knife. So they're not like considered a weapon or anything when you're
Yeah.
traveling, which is great. And they can be used to eat pretty much anything once you learn. So
Yeah,
like
for
that's
sure.
something simple that I do is every time I travel, I take a reusable straw, a reusable cup, and chopsticks. Um,
And that's
and
awesome, especially when you're traveling and you're taking like takeout or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. You can even pack like a reusable container, like a small Ziploc container,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that if you don't finish a meal but you want to eat it later in your hotel room, as weird as it is, and as many people might give you strange looks in other countries, you can do that and put it in your own container and take it back to your hotel room. And I've definitely done that many times.
That actually is one of my favorite budget travel tips that also happens to
Yes,
be really great for sustainability because, I mean, when you go to a
yes,
restaurant, the portion sizes are huge. And in
huge.
Europe and other countries, a lot of, I know mostly Europe, I've mostly been to traveling around Europe, so maybe in other regions and continents and countries as well, but they don't have takeout containers like in the United States. So I'm always like, all right, like I'm gonna go get the lunch deal, split in half.
Hmm.
There's my dinner, there's my lunch.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. We went to France, and actually, I remember I was like 15. My parents took me to France, and it was an amazing trip. We were really lucky to be able to go there. And my dad asked them, we went to like this really more fancy restaurant, and we had
Okay.
so much extra food. My dad asked them, like, oh, do you have a doggy bag? And they were like, no,
What?
sir, no doggy bag. And I was like, oh my God, dad. But at the same time, it's like, well, he didn't want to waste it. He's like, I
Yeah.
don't want to waste the food, and I'm taking it home. So needless to say, he found a creative solution.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a great thing you can do. And then another thing I would say to travelers is if you fly a lot, um, flying is one of like the worst things for the environment. So let's just be upfront and honest. It is. And I'm saying that, and I own a travel agency. But there are things you can do that at least help offset the carbon that you're putting into the environment.
Yeah.
So we always buy carbon offsets for flights that we book our travelers on. And we
That's
always,
actually, sorry, that's actually another question that we have, which
yeah,
is, have you carbon offsetted flights before, and what's a program you recommend?
yes. I carbon offset almost every single flight, and I try to only fly with airlines that are partnered with carbon offset programs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's third party carbon offset programs that you can find on the internet. But I will say, right, marketing and branding and people are always trying to scam us and get money, and a lot of
Yeah.
them aren't real. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful. There's a lot of, we call it greenwashing
Mm-hmm.
in the sustainable travel industry. There's a lot of greenwashing where there will be carbon offset companies saying they'll offset your flight. You just put in where you're traveling from, and you actually have no idea where your money is going.
Yeah.
So I always recommend if you're going to fly with an airline that partners with an offset program. Examples of
And
that are,
shows that they're actually doing things, transparency. They're being
yes,
transparent about their program and what they're doing for the money. Yeah.
exactly. Yep, transparency is perfect. Lufthansa does it. Air
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand does it. I mean, there's a bunch. Delta, I think, is getting ready to start an offsetting program. There's a ton of airlines that do it.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something I would recommend.
Yeah, me personally, I always just click the button. I think it's
Hmm.
usually a few extra dollars per
Yeah,
flight,
yeah.
so it's really not that expensive, and it goes towards different programs like growing trees, regenerative forests, bringing water to communities that may not have had access to water before, so
Hmm.
that they don't have to order plastic bottles or something. So those are the kind of things that you can expect from that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome. One other tip that I had is to fly direct. So I know that's not related to
Mm.
carbon offsetting, but that does reduce your carbon output
Hmm.
as a passenger,
Hmm.
um, because most of the carbon that is released and the impact on the environment from flying is from takeoff and landing. So
Yep,
by flying direct, you can reduce that greatly.
yep. 100% true.
Great. So one of the next questions that we have is, what can I do while I am stuck at home for the planet? I guess and related to travel sustainably as well. So I guess how can you prepare to sustainably travel, or what are some things that you can do at home to just improve your relationship with the planet here?
Yeah, so I know this is definitely your specialty more than mine because I've learned a lot from Kendall when it comes to living sustainably and in your own house. But like simple things that I've been more mindful of since I've been home is electricity and power. So making sure, since I'm working from home, if I'm in a room where the lights are on, turning the lights off. Water usage, obviously, just being mindful of that. Now that we're home a lot, maybe we feel like, you know, we need a 20-minute hot shower in the morning instead of our regular 5-minute because we don't have to be in at work.
Yeah.
So just being mindful of that and like setting a timer for your shower time. And then things like what you did today, picking up trash in your neighborhood.
Yeah. It's so simple. I mean, I think a lot of us are going out on walks anyway, so it's like bring a
Yeah.
bag, and a glove so you can protect
Yeah.
yourself. With the electricity, I actually learned today that a lot of electrical companies and energy companies actually offer incentives to replace light bulbs with LED light bulbs. So, yeah, if you're watching this, definitely call your energy company to see if they offer anything like that. I've heard of ones who offer to completely replace all the light bulbs that are currently working in your house with LED light bulbs, which saves you money and helps protect the planet, which is an awesome deal. So.
Yeah, and even on that note, like if you want to even get a little bit more intense with it, because we are all home, a lot of people are doing renovations or home projects because a lot of construction companies are still operating. And something that Denver does where I live, which is awesome, is they offer a solar offset program.
Oh.
So you can actually get solar panels installed on the roof of your house for free.
Oh, wow.
Yep, there's a company that will provide the panels, and then you actually get a kickback from having solar panels on your house from your power company as well. So it's really like everyone should do it. There isn't anything bad about it. You don't have to, you know, we went from a world a couple of years ago where you had to pay thousands of dollars to get solar installed. And now there's companies that are like, we'll do it for free. We'll install our panels on your home. All you have to do is give us permission, and then you'll get the kickback from your energy bill. So that's just a cool tidbit.
Yeah. I guess one of my sustainable trips that you can do at home, in terms of planning, is sort of dream up your dream itinerary. What's that perfect itinerary for the next place you want to go? And just pick one thing. Just start small, pick one thing, and just look up some options. So perhaps you want to go to a World Heritage Site. Maybe try to find a more sustainable provider. A lot of them have some sort of certification. Or try to find a spot that could use the tourism, isn't as popular, but is still as beautiful. That could honestly give you a better experience because there's less tourists there. It's usually cheaper as well, and then you can have this great experience that not as many travelers have had, which is, I think, really exciting as a traveler.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. A lot of times people don't book necessarily friendly accommodations or maybe think about working with eco-friendly tourism operators, which do exist, by the way. There's tons of sustainable and eco-friendly tour operators in every single country.
You're definitely better at finding them than I am.
So here's the thing is they're usually owned by locals, and they're usually smaller scale. So if you're traveling somewhere like, again, in Asia, or maybe where English is not the primary language, their ability to market towards Europeans or United States travelers is not as advanced as some of these big companies that offer tours. So Google Translate is your friend. That's definitely something I've used. And then,
so yeah, what is like a tip that you have for finding those more local sustainable tourism?
There's definitely buzzwords that go along with. And before we even start talking about searching for eco-friendly stuff, it's good for people to know that normally eco-friendly tourism operators or suppliers on the ground in the countries that you're going to, normally they're locally owned, and normally you're going to have a 100% more authentic experience than if you book with a large company, or if you book with someone who is not local to that country but knows how to market to Westerners, etc.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind. But the best way to find them is like buzzwords.
Okay.
So when I'm searching Google, I always type in eco-friendly, sustainable tourism operators, or I don't know, like green, just the word green, like green tours or like eco tours. Any combination of green, eco, sustainable, responsible travel. There's a bunch of buzzwords that you can type in.
And I guess also translating it into the local language.
Yeah, so I have found some of the best tours and accommodations by using Google Translate and not being afraid to book things not in my language.
Okay.
And a lot of times you can actually call that accommodation or that tour operator on the phone, like, you know, figure out the time difference, call them when it's not midnight their time. And a lot of times they'll be able to speak a little bit of broken English.
Okay.
And you can figure out, one, if they're legit, and you can even ask them about their practices or what they do, and they're more than happy to answer. And that's what we do whenever we're booking trips for clients. And it definitely helps increase your confidence that you're not being scammed or greenwashed by companies who just want your money, and they're using green and eco-friendly to attract a certain type of clientele.
Right. Okay. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome tip. So our next question is, what are some tips for avoiding wasteful snacks and meals on the plane if you still want to eat them?
I feel like you got this.
Well, I'd love to hear your suggestion too.
So I will say, if I've had a ton of layovers or I'm traveling really far, like halfway across the world for a trip, and I do not aptly prepare, I am eating all of the pretzel bags.
Yeah.
Like, there's a point where my, and this just goes along to say we're all human, right? Like, no one can be a perfect sustainable traveler all the time.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, there have been flights that I've been on where I'm like, give me more pretzel bags.
Yeah.
Because I'm like literally that hungry. Because I'm just that hungry.
Yeah.
And so a good thing, something recently that I started doing last year, and I get weird looks from the flight attendants, but they let me do it, is I take my reusable cup. So when they're coming around and saying, what do you want to drink? I'll take my reusable cup and I'll first ask them, hey, does your water come in a can or plastic? And if they say plastic, then I won't drink water. Usually I bring water on the plane with me.
Yeah.
But if they say it's from a plastic bottle, or like they'll just say, oh, here's the bottle, and offer to give it to me, I just won't take it.
Yeah.
I'll drink something else like apple juice or something else.
Right.
But if it comes in a can, then I'll ask them, hey, can you just pour it directly into my cup and not give me a plastic cup? And no one has denied me yet.
Yeah.
They look at me weird. They're like, you're strange. But they haven't said no, or no, we can't do that. They've been more than accommodating with doing that. So that's just like something I do when it comes to like drinks.
That's a perfect tip.
Yeah, like if you think about it, if you're going on a transatlantic flight, they offer you drinks like 5 times. So if you're using a different cup every single time, that's like 5 single-use cups that you just did not need to use.
Yeah. I mean, flights do create a lot of waste. It's kind of crazy to imagine that, because there's not a lot of space to hold a lot of trash, but those transatlantic flights can get up in the high tens for the pounds of trash created.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's definitely a great thing to do to help reduce your trash, is by just thinking of those little things like bringing your own reusable cup to cut back on your trash. I try to think of, for shorter flights at least, some little snacks. I might bring carrots or an apple, cut it up beforehand. No smelly snacks, not to, disturb your neighbors, because I really don't like.
You mean you don't bring cans of tuna?
Yeah. Oh, that's how you get kicked off the flight.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, or like hard-boiled eggs. That's a no-no.
I feel like I've definitely done that before.
I did once, and then I learned my lesson quickly.
Yeah.
So I try to bring some of those snacks with me along the way. You could also make like a sandwich and put it in a reusable tin or something. But yeah, for those transatlantic flights, like, you have to eat a couple times. You have to get enough water. A lot of airports now are really good about putting water stations within the airport after you go through security. So just trying to remember always to fill up your water bottle there. I used to always have a Nalgene that I would carry with me, and I would fill that thing up because I drink so much water. And one time on a transatlantic flight, I forgot my Nalgene, and I was like, no, I'm just going to like push through it and not drink water. And then obviously that was a terrible idea. So finally I was like, hi, like, stewardess, do you have water? And it only came in plastic bottles, which I didn't realize until she started filling my Nalgene up with water from this plastic bottle. And I was like, this defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you don't have to do that. She's like, no, sweetie, it's okay. And I'm like, all right, like,
yeah. And that happens. Like, that happens sometimes, where people just are in a completely, it doesn't even like, being sustainable or having an eco-friendly mindset doesn't cross their minds. And that's an opportunity, one, to teach them. Like when people give me weird looks, I'm like, oh, it's because of this reason. But you just have to be careful to do it in a non-judgmental way, but just like a positive way of like, oh, it's just for this reason that I do this. And
I'm just trying to reduce my plastic waste. Or
exactly.
Really quick, non-judgmental, like you said. Yes, perfect.
Exactly. And then the next time that they go to get a plastic water bottle, they might think twice. So
perfect.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to mention here is I was talking to a flight attendant friend of mine, and I was like, what? So if I brought my own meal on these transatlantic flights where you do receive a meal, what happens to it if I deny it? Like they can reuse it right for the next flight. And I was told no. Every single flight, they count the number of passengers and they have the correct number of meals for every single passenger. And if it's not eaten by that number of passengers on that flight, then according to regulations, it has to be disposed of. So in that case, eat your meal. Eat your transatlantic meal. You usually get, the plastic forks and knives. If you are in the habit of carrying bamboo or metal or something else with you, then I would say go ahead and use that. And then you can donate the plastic forks and knives to perhaps a local business or the homeless shelter in your travel destination if you're going to stop by something like that or volunteer there. Just trying to find a second life for that for someone who just absolutely cannot use reusables. But yeah, sometimes that's just how it is. Like you said earlier, nobody is a perfect sustainable traveler, and that's not really the point of the sustainability journey. It's just trying to do the best you can every single day to do something a little bit better. So go eat your transatlantic meals. They're not that great, but either way, it's not beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty. So the next question is, what is an awesome sustainable travel memory you have had?
Ooh, an awesome sustainable travel memory. Does it have to be like that I had or that I watched someone else have?
I guess you could watch someone else have had it.
So I went to Budapest with my mom this past winter. We went to Prague and Budapest, and we talked to you about it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you were in Belarus at the time.
Yeah.
And she knows I'm like psycho against plastic water bottles. And she's family, right? So I'm not going to be as wrong as this is. I'm not going to be as polite to my mother as I would.
I'm not either.
A stranger.
Yeah.
So I'm glad my mom doesn't know how to use Instagram because I'm totally calling her out right now. But on our flight home, so interestingly enough, I had a reusable water bottle the whole trip, and she saw the night before we left that I was taking one, so she brought one. And she was really excited about it because she's definitely not a person who's conscious about her carbon footprint or being eco-friendly. I just think that generation just doesn't really think about it as much as we do.
For sure.
And so throughout the trip, she was like so excited about always refilling up her reusable water bottle.
Aww.
And then in the airport, the last day flying home, out of habit, she bought a water bottle, a plastic water bottle. And she's in the airport and her flight was delayed. And I look at her and I was like, Mom, what are you doing? And like probably could not be more judgmental or upset. And I was just like, you know how I feel about this. I can't believe you would buy a plastic water bottle knowing how I feel about this. And I like pretty much threw like a 5-year-old tantrum with my 60-year-old mother in the middle of the airport because she bought a plastic water bottle. And like people started to stare at me and were like, what is she doing yelling about this plastic water bottle? But my mom, obviously didn't handle it well because they definitely got judgmental, but it really made her think about it. Like I made such a big deal out of it and then I started pulling up facts on my phone and I was like, did you know this? Did you know this about plastic? Did you know this about plastic? Again, not the right way to handle it. But she looked at me and she's like, you know what? I didn't know that microplastics even got into animal. Like I didn't know microplastics affected marine life in the ocean. I had no idea. And she was like, and her argument to me for getting the plastic water bottle was, well, you can recycle it. And then I looked up the facts about if you recycle a plastic water bottle, what are the chances it will actually properly be recycled? And it was bad.
Yeah.
it was like, I think it was like 11% chance, depending on where
Yeah.
you are in the world. When I looked it up, it was 11% chance it would actually
Yeah.
be recycled and not end up in a landfill. So she, since then, she is reminded of my tantrum
Mm-hmm.
anytime she thinks about buying a plastic water bottle, and she doesn't. So it worked. It's not
Yeah.
maybe the right method, but it definitely worked in making someone think about it twice
Mm-hmm.
before doing it. And it's a simple choice. It's such a
Yeah.
simple choice. So,
I think we have really high expectations for our family, and so I think we can be a bit harder on them sometimes, but
yeah,
we
for
also
sure.
can have our emotions exposed about the things that we're really passionate about. I can definitely be hard on my family for their sustainability habits or lack thereof. But yeah, it's really exciting to see them learning and making these small changes, which is
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think my favorite or awesome sustainable memory was while I was in Belarus recently. I was volunteering at the local library hosting English conversation clubs, and I tried to make it about life and business and these kind of things, critical thinking through English as a tool. So one of the days we did a plastic lesson, and I invited everyone, all the students, to bring in different numbers of plastic that they collected throughout the week. So plastic bags, plastic straws, plastic bottles. And then we talked about it. I was like, so, like, why did you bring this plastic in? Like, what's the story behind this plastic? Like, where did you get it? How long did you use it? And it was just a very interesting sort of experiment for them. And then I talked about like how much time it takes to create a plastic water bottle and how many resources. And they're like, oh, it doesn't just appear on the shelves. And then we turned it into art to kind of practice reusing. Um, and so some of my students cut up different things and made an American flag and a Belarusian flag out of the plastic materials. And they were just so excited about this. It's unfortunate because today I had planned to do a cleanup in my city in Belarus.
Aww.
So can't do that, but still like able to make change by talking about it with
Yeah.
people. It's talking is really, really powerful. Communication and conversations are so powerful. So yeah, I love that both
Yeah.
of our awesome sustainable memories are from conversation.
Yeah. I think, even if, Kendall and I obviously have been feeling this way or kind of changing our attitude towards the environment for years now. And
Hmm.
so we've definitely developed probably strong opinions.
Yeah.
And it is hard to fight like judgments when nobody's perfect, right? And it's
Hmm.
hard to fight like yourself being judgmental. But just like you just said, even in my own work environment, everyone calls me the hippie.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. I would
Hmm.
rather have them know I'm a hippie, and maybe my presence somewhere will help them or make them think twice about something,
Yeah.
just because they're like, oh, Shelby's gonna give me a lecture if I if I use this plastic fork,
Yeah.
when there's a metal one right there. And so it's kind of, there's goods and positives to try to finding the balance of not being judgmental and being able to
Hmm.
have conversations. But I think like what you just did, introducing it to your students in that way is completely non-judgmental and opens their eyes to
Yeah.
them realizing themselves, oh, I only use this once,
Yeah.
and
And it
asking the
was
question.
it was really eye-opening to me because like you said, we've been on this journey for a couple of years now, and
Yeah.
it's hard to remember how little we knew when we started and how much of a learning curve it is. So I try to constantly remind myself of this and tell my audience as well, like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, being sustainable is hard. Like, it's okay to mess up. It's okay to take it one small step at a time. And I love to say, like, how I started my sustainability journey was I was like, all right, like, starting this week, I'm going to pick one thing a week and
Mm-hmm.
make that change. And so for 1 year, every single week, I made a change. And it seems so
That's
small in
awesome.
the moment, but then at the end of the year, I looked back and I was like, wow, I made 52 changes. Like, that is so powerful for the
Yeah,
environment.
that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, it's hard to come from this place of understanding sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. Just to all the people listening to this right now, don't get discouraged. It's a long journey. It's a habit, but it's very rewarding when you're on that journey.
Absolutely.
But this kind of goes along with the next question. This is a
Yeah.
question from me because we just talked about our awesome sustainable travel memory, but what is a sustainability travel fail that you've had?
Oh God.
I know we probably have many. I certainly do, but maybe like
Um,
the funniest one or something.
yeah, okay. A sustainable travel fail that I've had. Well, one I already mentioned, eating all the
Hmm.
pretzel bags on flights if I'm starving and forget to like pack snacks or something.
Hmm.
That's definitely something where I will not sacrifice my hunger for the pretzel bags.
Okay.
I should just probably buy an entire like 24-ounce bag of pretzels every time I
Just
travel.
bring the bulk version
Yeah,
and
and
fill it
have
up.
like my own pretzel party on the plane because I love those pretzels. Um, but let me
You can call
think.
Delta and see if you can bulk order them.
Yeah, I think a sustainable travel fail for me would be the times where I mean, I think this goes for everyone. The times where maybe you see pictures on Pinterest or Instagram
Hmm.
of beautiful places or UNESCO World Heritage sites, and you're
Yeah.
like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
I want to see that view. I want to get that picture. I want to do that thing.
Hmm.
And you kind of sacrifice, like you trade your convenience and selfishness for the betterment of the planet or contributing to something like mass tourism or something like that.
Yeah.
And Halong Bay was, I mean, the experience I already talked about in Halong Bay was my greatest lesson that
Hmm.
not all of my friends, even though they know I'm a sustainable traveler and I don't like participating in mass tourism
Yeah.
activities, that doesn't mean that they are. And so that was something where I felt guilty the whole time I was on that trip. I was like,
Yeah.
I cannot believe I am paying $600 for this overnight cruise in Halong Bay, and I am supporting this industry that I completely disagree with.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like it made me depressed and sad.
No, I
Um, and
I can understand.
I was just like, I'm gonna go inside because the dogs are just crazy right now. Sorry.
The
It made me.
world.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna protect you, Mom, from the other nice dogs outside. Um, but yeah, I think just participating in that experience
Hmm.
was like heartbreaking for me because I had already done it. I already paid the money and I was
Yeah.
already there,
Yeah.
and I saw it and was like, this is not at all what I support or what I thought I would be doing. And so that was
Hmm.
just kind of like devastating.
Yeah. But
So
I mean, you made a good point is that your greatest sustainable fail was also your greatest lesson and what propelled you
yeah,
on this journey. So, like we were talking earlier, there's a silver lining out of everything. So, I
yeah,
think that's
for
really
sure.
powerful. I think for
Yeah.
me, I am just so forgetful. I will, I have two modes. I'm either packing for 2 weeks before the trip or I'm packing the night before and scrambling. And in both packing modes, I forget the most basic things.
Stuff like a
Yes.
toothbrush. I
Toothbrush.
forget my toothbrush all the time.
When I went to the Bahamas with my dad for a scuba diving trip, it was the worst time. I was so set on making sure I had all my scuba diving gear that I forgot the most simple things like underwear. I didn't pack any
Oh
underwear.
God.
I didn't bring a toothbrush. I didn't bring a charger for my GoPro, so like I had to be very conservative about what I was charging. Yeah, I just forgot pretty much everything that I needed for that trip.
hmm
So, I had to run around the Bahamas 2 hours before I'm supposed to board this boat for a week, trying to find everything. And of course, everything is packaged in plastic. It's things that aren't going to
Yeah.
really last a long time, things that I don't
hmm
really love. Um, so that I think that is my biggest sustainability fair. I've never been that underprepared for a trip before. Um,
But you had your scuba gear.
but I had my scuba gear, so I was going in the ocean one way or
Yeah.
another. Um, yeah, so I think I'm becoming better with the packing list, but
Yeah.
it's it's one of those things where it's like, oh man, like I didn't love this thing that I just had to buy, but like you need underwear.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
all right, so the last question. that I have for us is, what is a sustainable thing that you have not done yet, but you plan to do? So maybe something you want to adopt into your life or your travels.
Um, there's like a list of a million things that I haven't done yet that I
So maybe
plan
what's the
to
next
do.
thing that you want to do?
Um, so let's see. So my big thing for the past year was when we lived in Japan, we only had one car that we
Okay.
traveled with. We had a camper van, which was only used on the weekends, and then we had a car that we used during the week. And so when we moved here, we decided we're not going to buy two cars.
Okay.
We're going to choose the house that we buy or that we live in to be close to public transportation so that I can take the bus or ride my bike into work. And my husband can use a car if he needed it, or vice versa.
Okay.
And so that was one thing that I never thought I would actually do that I did do this past year. That was like my big hurdle, was like not driving to work.
That's awesome.
I bike 3 miles to the bus stop or have my husband drop me off, and then bike 3 miles home. And let me tell you though, it sucks sometimes. At the end of a long day. I'm like,
Yeah.
I do not want to bike 3 miles uphill right now
Yeah.
with with a 20-pound backpack on.
Yeah.
But it's good for you because it's healthy. And like every time I do it, I am on the bus and I just look at all the cars on the way to work on the highway. And I'm just like, there's one person in every single car. There's 10 open spots in this bus. We're all going to the same place.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanted to do that I did. And then something upcoming that I want to do that I haven't done yet. I want to find a system where I can transfer all of our vegetables, not fruits because of the climate in Colorado. There's not a ton of different fruits I could grow here, but all of our vegetables I want to be coming from our own garden in our backyard and not buy any from the store.
That's impressive, and that's a lofty goal, but I'm all about it. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's like, again, Kendall and I, for people who are watching, have been on this journey for like a couple of years now, right? So starting like a garden, just planting even 1 or 2 things is incredible and wonderful, especially things you use all the time, like tomatoes. I always tell people, like, start with tomatoes. It's easy.
They're
it's
easy to grow.
Easy to grow. It's a hardy fruit. You eat them all the time, and you can't really go wrong. And so I kind of started last year. I was like determined. Last summer when we moved to Denver, I was like, we bought a house that has 4 garden boxes, and there were already 7 to 8 different vegetables growing from the year before.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Which included like strawberry, arugula, and I hadn't done anything. And I was like, wow, like naturally this garden is like reinventing itself. So yeah, that's my next thing. Is last year we planted 38 different vegetables.
Oh my gosh.
I went a little
incredible.
Overboard. Everything grew except for my Thai basil. I don't know why my Thai basil didn't grow, but it was like, even my husband got into it. He was like,
awesome.
I'm going to go out and pick some arugula and make myself a salad. And I was like, oh, good for you.
That's awesome.
So that's something that we want to continue and find a way to do it year round, even in the winter months, by growing indoors instead of just outdoors. So what about you?
I'm not a gardener. I killed cacti, which are supposed to be unkillable. So
I've killed some cacti before too, so that's fine.
I will try again eventually, but right now is not that moment. But my parents love gardening, so I benefit from their tomatoes and lettuce. But
nice.
I think my biggest thing is trying to support those businesses that are really, really trying to be sustainable on their tours. So I'm really good about supporting clothing and skincare businesses and other like lifestyle products, but I'm not as good at searching for specifically sustainable tours and businesses while I'm traveling.
I got you, girl.
Yeah, you got me. I got those tips. I'm gonna learn. Yeah, it's just like if I'm researching, if they're, like you said, if they're marketing to the Westerner and they advertise it in English, then I would rather choose that one. But it's not something that I'm intentionally doing.
Yeah.
So I want to bring more intention into my travel planning that way. So yeah, I think that's what that's one of my goals this year, is to do that more often.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was all of the questions that I had. Did you have any final thoughts you wanted to share?
No, I think the one thing I would say is, so we're gonna repost this to IGTV, right?
Yes.
You're gonna teach me how to do that because I have
Yes.
no idea. But Kendall's gonna teach me how to repost this to my IGTV, so it'll be on mine and it'll be on Kendall's. And the one thing I would just say is that on your sustainable journey, whether it's traveling or even at home during this time where coronavirus is happening, the one thing I tell people to think about is, does the thing that's not good for the environment, is that convenience to you worth it?
Okay.
So if you ask yourself that question every single time, like for example, we want to support our local restaurants and get takeout, right? But a lot of the takeout, because of coronavirus, is like completely packaged up, like packaged, double packaged, multi-packaged, 1,000 ways it's packaged in plastic and plastic bags and stuff. And so what we decided as a compromise is, hey, instead of us doing takeout every single week, we'll just do it 2 weeks out of the month. Okay. We'll support the businesses that we are closest to us and we think are struggling the most. But at the same time, we still want to practice sustainability. And so is that convenience worth it to me to accept all that packaged plastic and for like that meal or to support that business? And to me, it isn't every single week, but maybe twice a month. Or another thing we'll do is some restaurants will use kind of like more durable plastic than like the styrofoam containers for takeout. And so I'll reuse it at least like 3 to 4 times if I can. Maybe not for eating purposes or like food storage purposes, but I'll like all of my like pens and pencils and stuff are organized in like old takeout plastic containers. So there's
That's
like,
great, though.
Yeah, there's like ways you can repurpose stuff. So I would just say on your journey, wherever you start on your journey, just ask yourself like, hey, is my convenience worth me doing this thing? Or can I just have a slight behavioral change to not do this thing this one time?
I think you summarized that perfectly. That was great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for everyone watching, I'm going to post this, as Shelby said, on IGTV. It will be on both of our IGTVs. And we have a special little giveaway for you. My mother is an amazing sewer, and she has a bunch of old fabrics that she was using. I mean, they're not old, they're just scraps. And so she made a bunch of reusable tote bags. I want to give one of you a reusable tote bag. So to win a reusable tote bag, there's going to be one given away. You have to take a picture of you doing something better for the environment. So if you are buying a reusable straw, take a picture of the confirmation order or the picture of you buying it or something and post it onto your IG stories before 8 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. And I'm going to pick someone to give away this tote bag to. And just tag us both in it. Alternatively, if you can't afford to buy something right now or make one of those changes, which is completely understandable with our current times, go ahead and just, make a little IG story naming your biggest takeaway from this video, and you'll still be in the running. Just make sure you tag both me at Getaway Girl blog and Shelby at Authenteco Travel, and we'll pick tomorrow evening. Thank you so much, Shelby, for joining me today. It was a lot of fun. We shared a ton of great information. I learned things. It was awesome.
Yeah, I learned things. I always learn things from you. She's smart. She's smart, everybody. Everyone follow Kendal. Follow Getaway Girl blog.
The sustainable travel community is awesome. We're full of really positive, supportive, intelligent people. So we're so happy that you joined us today. Go follow Shelby at Authenteco Travel on Instagram. Go check out her custom sustainable tours. They're wonderful. I have so much travel envy right now. It's something that you can definitely consider in the future. And if you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Getaway Girl blog on Instagram. And I share a whole bunch of really quick and easy tips that you can make to make your travels more sustainable and more zero waste to benefit the planet. So go check out the blog. The link is in my bio. Thank you so much. Have a lovely Earth Day.
Yeah, bye everybody.
Bye.